This Saturday is UFC Vegas 105. Josh Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. And this is going to be my full card predictions for this banger of an Apex card. I can't wait. I can't wait. People's main event, Vanessa Demopoulos versus Talita Alencar. I mean, need I say more? I mean, we have Dione Barbosa versus Dione Belbita on the card. Can't wait. I mean, I was so deep into the details and the deep dive for the full card predictions that I had to put the video out on Thursday. It's definitely not because I did not want to talk about this card. If you guys enjoy prediction videos, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let's jump right into it. And I believe the UFC website has the bout order out of order, but I'm just going to go with the UFC's bout order. We have Vanessa Demopoulos versus Talita Alencar, the people's main event. What to say about this fight? What am I supposed to say? Talita Alencar doesn't even belong in the UFC. She's 34 years old. She's coming off a loss against Stephanie Luciano, betterwise known on the channel as Lucindo, because for some reason I can't call her by a proper name. Before that, she beat Ray and Amanda. I thought arguably she lost that fight, won via split decision. She gassed out on Dana White's Contender Series against Stephanie Luciano as well, and ended up being a draw because she got 10-8 in the third round, I believe. Demopoulos is a scrub. Talita Alencar is a scrub. Demopoulos coming off a loss against Jacqueline Amorin, where she got submitted via armbar in the first round. What kind of breakdown do you want from me? Alencar's primarily a grappler who has dog shit striking. Demopoulos, even though she's not good, she's a fighter. Like she'll walk forward, throw wild, ugly, striking type combinations, and she has the will to be there, where Alencar, I think she's just showing up for that 5-5 paycheck. I'm going to go Vanessa Demopoulos via decision. I don't really know how Talita Alencar wins this fight. I guess she could out-grapple Demopoulos the entire time, but even on her back, Demopoulos tries to scramble, and I don't think Alencar is some elite-level wrestler who has amazing control time. So I'm going to go Vanessa Demopoulos via decision. Next fight on the card, we have Victor Henry versus Pedro Falcao. This is a tough fight. I've gone back and forth on this prediction. I know the easy prediction. Oh, Victor Henry. Go with Victor Henry on Tapology. 76% is picking Victor Henry. I don't trust Victor Henry at all. So he's coming off a loss against Charles Jourdain, where he got submitted via guillotine, where he didn't even try to alleviate the pressure. He was on the opposite side, somehow still taps immediately while he's winning the fight, by the way. Fight before they beat Ronnie Yaya. Ronnie Yaya is a straight-up scrub. Fight before that, faked a groin shot because he was getting dominated by Javid Basharat, who's since lost, I think, 2 fights since then. Amin Zahabi and somebody else who I can't think of right off the top of my head. And he was getting dominated by Javid Basharat. Then you have Pedro Falcao, who came from out of the UFC, fought less than optimal opposition, 13-8, 14-4 on Dana White's Contender Series, 22-10. So not the worst opposition, but not super active either. I mean, 2 fights ago was 3.5 years ago outside the UFC. So really 3 fights ago, because he fought Victor Hugo roughly a year ago. I feel like the immediate pick, like you look at the fight, you're like, okay, I'm going with this guy. You're going with Victor Henry. He's got decent striking, has decent grappling, has decent defensive and offensive grappling. Pedro Falcao against Hugo just shot nonstop takedowns. Now, he had some success early, had his back early. His striking didn't look particularly good, and the scrambling of Hugo, he was able to get up off bottom. I don't know, though. I don't know. Henry gets taken down. He got taken down against Javid Basharat multiple times. You know, Ronnie Yaya isn't good as primarily a grappler. Falcao has okay striking. I'm not picking Victor Henry in his ball sack. He faked a groin shot on his ball sack to get out of a fight because he was getting out grappled and pieced up on the feet. He's damn near 40 years old. He's going on 38. Falcao's 32, going on 33. Arguably in the prime of his career. I know it's a crazy pick, but I'm picking Pedro Falcao to get it done. I'm going to say via decision. I could see him TKOing Henry, though. Maybe on the ground, Henry just gives up. Henry's a quitter. I can tell you right now, he's just a quitter, man. The way he tapped against Charles Jourdain, the way he quit against Javid Basharat, I don't believe in Victor Henry. I'm not picking him. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'll die on the hill. I'm going Pedro Falcao. Next fight on the card, straight up banger. This is the people's co-main event. We have Loma Lookboonmee versus Istela Nunes, which according to Tapology is the first fight on the card. So another high-level women's MMA matchup. Istela Nunes has not won a fight in 7 years. In 7 years. Her last win was against a 7-3 fighter, Gina, I don't even know how to pronounce her last name, 6 years, 8 months ago. Since then, she lost against Ariane Carnelosi, got submitted there, lost to Sam Hughes, lost to Yasmin Howard via TKO KO, and lost to Victoria Dudakova, where she tried to stuff a takedown and broke her arm or dislocated her elbow. Loma Lookboonmee, coming off a win against Bruno Brazil, coming off a win over Elise Reed where she finished her, coming off a win over Denise Gomes, which is actually a decent win. Last loss is Lupita Godinez. Low-key, I'm ready to change my pick. Because I'm going Lookboonmee, but what I'm saying change my pick is I just by default, I'm like, okay, I'm picking her via decision. It's a women's MMA fight. I'm picking her to finish her. I mean, last 4 fights, all 3 out of 4 via finish. She got TKO'd. Lookboonmee has some decent striking, decent kickboxing, decent kicks overall. Has decent jiu-jitsu. Has okay finishing ability for a women's MMA fighter. I am going to pick her to submit Istela Nunes. I'm going to say second round rear naked choke. She gets some type of sub on the ground, takes her down, beats her up, beats her to a bloody pulp. Looking like it's going to be a TKO, but Lookboonmee gets tired of throwing shots, so she snatches up a rear naked choke after back shots dead. So I'm going Lookboonmee, second round TKO. Next fight on the card. We have Rhys McKee versus Daniel Frunza. There's a lot of fights on this card. I typically don't look, or I try not to pay attention to any odds or any like prediction rates on Tapology until after I've made my picks, because sometimes it can warp you. I looked at this one and it's like got me second guessing my pick. I'm watching Daniel Frunza on Dana White's Contender Series. He looked horrible, even though he got the finish. He was getting touched up. He almost fumbled bad. He almost got finished. He hurt him early, the guy he fought on Dana White's Contender Series early, and then let him build back, and then almost got finished himself. His grappling isn't great. He hurt the guy, got taken down while the guy is still freshly hurt, couldn't get up off bottom. His striking's wild and crazy. He looks for KOs. He can land big shots. But he looks amateur. These Dana White's Contender Series guys are breaking my brain. But then you have Rhys McKee, which, Cage Warriors, those guys get overhyped. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, lost to Angelosa, lost to Chidi Nzechukwu via split decision in his last fight. He's better known as the guy that got mauled by Hamzat on Fight Island. I know the easy pick. 79% are going Frunza. I know that's the easy pick, but I'm watching him fight. I'm like, Rhys McKee probably touches him up. Even in the Chidi Nzechukwu fight, Rhys McKee was actually mixing in the clinch and grappling, which Frunza has no grappling. And I know Rhys McKee, he's kind of known for his, lack of ability of defensive grappling. He gets taken down, he gets controlled, he gets outworked in the clinch. But I think he's built on it. That's been his, one kind of weakness. Not that he's an elite striker by any means, but he's a decent enough striker. He's durable enough. He has, some grappling where Frunza has no grappling. Basically, Daniel Frunza only advantage is his power. I'm going to go Rhys McKee. I know this pick may backfire on me. He's 29 years old. I think he's still kind of improving. He's going to a split decision with Chidi Nzechukwu, who's a decent striker, has decent Muay Thai. Daniel Frunza did not impress me on Dana White's Contender Series. So I'm going to go Rhys McKee to get it done. I think he outstrikes him. I think he mixes in the clinch. I think maybe even Rhys McKee outgrapples him for a bit. That's a bold prediction right there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Frunza comes out and just brutally chins him. But I'm going Rhys McKee to get it done. Next fight on the card. The People's Main Event 2.0. We have Dione Belbita versus Diana Barbosa. What a straight up heater. What a straight up heater. What a straight up heater. Listen. This is another low levels women's MMA fight. You have Dione Barbosa coming off a loss against Miranda Maverick. Actually even had a trip takedown against Miranda Maverick. Just rewatched that fight. Before that beat Ernesta Caracate, who's actually a decent women's fighter. Before that, won on Dana White's Contender Series via armbar. Then you have Dione Belbita, who got submitted by Molly McCann in her last fight. How can I possibly pick anyone that got submitted by Molly McCann? If you lost to Molly McCann, chances are you're literally the bummiest of the bummiest in the UFC. Before that, lost to Karolina Kovacevic. Before that, beat Maria Oliveira, who's not that good. Before that, lost to Gloria De Paula. Win Hannah Goldie. So Maria Oliveira and Hannah Goldie. Hannah Goldie is a straight up scrub. And there's no way I'm picking Belbita. I'm picking Dione Barbosa. The question is whether or not she gets a finish. Because I think she's the better striker, honestly. She has the better grappling. I think she can mix in the takedowns. I think she could find a submission. She has good jiu-jitsu. Belbita obviously has no submission. Has no submission defense, considering I've lost my train of thought there for a second. Considering she gets submitted by Molly McCann. So, super low-level women's MMA fight. I'm going Dione Barbosa to get it done. I'm gonna say sub. I'm gonna say she subs Belbita. I'd say she takes her down. Maybe a little Muay Thai trip or whatever it may be. Gets her down. Belbita doesn't have the best takedown defense. Like, at the end of the day, I'll take Barbosa for having put up a decent fight against Miranda Maverick. That's a bit of an exaggeration. She got dominated in the grappling, but Maverick's actually really solid versus somebody who's getting finished by Molly McCann. I'll go Barbosa. I'll say she gets a submission in the second round. I'll say she gets another armbar. I'll say Belbita loses via armbar again is a better way to put it. So I'm going Dione Barbosa, second round armbar. Next fight on the card. This is a tricky fight too. There's a lot of, as much as I show on this card, there's a lot of tricky fights on this card. We have Davey Grant versus Daniel Santos. Davey Grant is kind of good, but also kind of shit. He's coming off a win over Raymond Tavares. Crazy fight there. Before that, lost to Daniel Marcos, who's actually kind of decent. Shittiest undefeated fighter ever, but you get my point. And before that, beat Rafael Sunsao. Before that, beat Luis Smoka. Before that, lost to Adrian Yanez. Close fight there. Davey Grant's kind of a guy that's been around forever who's very decent. Then you have Daniel Santos. Beat Johnny Munoz Jr., who's a scrub. Beat John Castaneda, who's a scrub. Lost to Julio Arce. And then before that, outside the UFC. Davey Grant's so tough and durable, has good kicks. But he's 39. He's 39. He's fighting a 30-year-old, arguably entering their prime. Grant seems to just somehow pull it off. That's why it has me struggling with this pick. I think on paper, let me look. Yep. I think on paper, most people are going to pick Davey Grant. But it's going to be primarily standing. I think Santos is pretty good, and he has a improved grappling as well. I don't know. And my dog's barking in the background. I don't know if you guys just heard that. So, who am I going to pick? I think the easy, safe pick is Davey Grant, but I am going to go with Daniel Santos. Younger, more aggressive. Davey Grant, we know of his durability because he takes a lot of damage or a decent amount of damage. I don't trust Daniel Santos 100% to get it done, considering, I don't rate Johnny Munoz very highly or John Castaneda, so he doesn't really have any great wins. And this may be the worst pick, but I'm going with the 30-year-old over the 39-year-old. I think Santos is good enough to get it done against Davey Grant. I'm going to go Santos via decision. Hard fought, close, maybe even controversial decision win for Daniel Santos. Next fight on the card. We have Ode Osbourne versus Luis Gurule, I think is how you pronounce it, who's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. Like, he's even got his Dana White's Contender Series gloves here. Ode Osbourne arguably beat Lazy Boy, but Lazy Boy's a fraud. We just saw him exposed. And Ode Osbourne's lost 4 out of his last 5. Lost to Ronaldo Rodriguez, Lazy Boy. Lost to Jafel Filio. Lost to Asul Almabayev. Beat Charles Johnson, which is actually aged decently. And lost to Tyson Nam. Got KO'd there. He's fighting Luis Gurule, who's undefeated, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, who has decent striking, has okay grappling. He got immediately taken down in his Dana White's Contender Series fight and had his back taken, but he was able to scramble out and get up. Made the fight closer than it probably should have been. But this fight's really going to be primarily contested on the feet. I think Ode Osbourne in the first round could find a way to get it done, has good power. I think he'll have a decent speed advantage. I don't trust Gurule to be able to go out there and just easily outstrike Ode Osbourne. But what I do trust Gurule to do is do more damage, man. I think he has more power than Ode Osbourne. Even though Ode Osbourne has decent power, he has horrible cardio. And Gurule kind of went to war on Dana White's Contender Series. And he had decent cardio in that fight. There was a mix of grappling. He was walking him down, throwing a lot of combinations. He was eating good shots and just walking forward. And Ode Osbourne has like one round of cardio, and then he significantly starts to slow down. Now, arguably, he could have beat Lazy Boy. I think 1-3. So it wasn't the worst there, but look how bad Lazy Boy is. So I'm going to pick Luis Gurule to get it done. I'm going to pick him, even though I think Ode will be like touching him up a bit. I think Gurule will land the bigger shots, the more damaging shots, and win the fight that way. I'm going to pick Luis Gurule to win via decision. How can you pick Ode Osbourne, 33 years old, lost 4 out of his last 5, and he's not even fighting the elite of the elite? It's not the worst fighters ever. Lazy Boy, Jafel Filio, Asu Amabayev. Gurule isn't fighting the best opposition either. I mean, 2 wins ago, outside Dana White's Contender Series, 11-10. So, again, this could be one of those fights where you think, go Gurule, and he's definitely going to win. And, Ode Osbourne's on this crazy losing streak. Ode Osbourne isn't like a complete scrub. But I'm going to go Gurule to get it done via decision. Next fight on the card, opening up the main card. What a banger we have here. We have Torrez Finney versus Robert Valentin. You have to go Torrez Finney. I know Dana White said he would get decimated in the UFC. What bothered me about that is Dana White signs scrub after scrub after scrub after scrub. And then he makes Finney fight 3 times on Dana White's Contender Series and acts like he's a total scrub, even though you sign nothing but scrubs. Finney's a one-dimensional fighter who primarily likes to just pick guys up, dump them down, ground and pound, look for subs, has decent power. Valentin is like a Family Dollar-ish version of Yuri, kind of. He's coming off a loss against Ryan Loader. My brother Ryan Loader. We had the exact same body type as well, where he got finished there. Had a decent first round. I think Finney is too big, too strong. I know, like, height-wise, it's a massive height differential. It's a 6-inch height advantage for Valentin. But I don't think it's going to matter when Finney comes out there, picks him up, and dumps him down. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. I think Valentin can scramble, look to get in decent positions. I just think Finney's going to be too strong. And I think Finney's going to be beating him up on the ground. I think that Finney, even though he's one-dimensional, I think he will be able to get it to his dimension. If this fight is standing, if Valentin's able to fend off the takedowns, Finney's in trouble. Because his striking is straight up garbage. In line with a lot of the bottom-of-the-barrel guys in the UFC. So, I just think it really requires Robert Valentin to keep the fight standing. Other than that, he's getting out-grappled and beaten up on the ground. And I think Finney's strong enough to do that. Has decent enough wrestling to do that. And I think that's what he's going to do. I mean, that's always his game plan. It's crazy that it took him 3 shots on Dana White's Contender Series to get a contract. He finally got a ground and pound TKO in his last fight. He finished 2 out of 3 of them, which is crazy. I went back and watched all of them. Didn't look particularly great in the second one, but what really told me is Dana White was against Finney, which I keep wanting to call him Finley, because he was a grappler. He didn't like that he shot takedowns. But that's what's going to win him the fight. I'm going Torrez Finney over Robert Valentin. I'm going to say second round TKO. I think Ryan Loader had him in a crucifix and was just elbowing him, and he couldn't get out of the position. If Ryan Loader's muscling you like that, I think Finney can do the same. So I'm going Torrez Finney, second round ground and pound TKO for the first fight on the main card. Next fight on the card, we have Brad Tavares versus Gerald Meerschaert. I'm telling you guys, this is a tricky card to predict. This could be an absolute bloodbath. This could be an absolute bloodbath of bad picks for a lot of people. Gerald Meerschaert, somehow, even though he's shit, he keeps finding ways to win. I mean, he's not winning all his fights. He's inconsistent, but still. His last fight, lost to Rainer De Ritter. Rainer De Ritter is a decent fighter. Before that, beat Edmund Shabazian. Before that, beat Brian Barberina. Before that, lost to Andre Petrosky. Before that, lost to Joe Piper. Got absolutely brutally slept. Brad Tavares, I feel like he's still somewhat athletic. Like, Gerald Meerschaert is the definition of, like, stuck-in-the-mud fighter. His striking isn't very good. He's super slow. But he just relies on somehow clipping you and then finding a sub. He's the guy that basically made famous club and sub. Brad Tavares, I don't know. He's lost 4 out of his last 5. Went to a split decision with Jung Young Park in his last fight. Got KO'd by Gregory Rodriguez. Beat Chris Weidman, but Chris Weidman's a dead corpse who should have stayed retired instead of going to GFL. I mean, he's even a bum for GFL. Then before that, lost to Bruno Silva, got KO'd. Lost to Dricus du Plessis in a very competitive fight 2.5 years ago. Brad Tavares still seems decently fast. He has really solid takedown defense, and I think he's the far superior striker than Gerald Meerschaert. So I'm going to go Brad Tavares to get it done. I don't rate Gerald Meerschaert that highly. I think he's kind of dog shit. I know he's been around forever, but he's got a lot of miles on him. You look at him fight, he's slow as hell. I think Tavares still has decent speed for his age. Doesn't have as many miles on him, only has 30 fights versus, oh my God. I mean, you're looking at over 50 fights for Gerald Meerschaert. Over 50 fights for Gerald Meerschaert. You're looking at, 55, I believe, if my math is correct. He's got a lot of miles on him. He's got 18 losses. 18 losses. I know Brad Tavares has 10, but that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of brain damage. He's slowed down significantly. And I think Brad Tavares is the better striker. So I'm going to go Brad Tavares to get it done. Meerschaert's decently durable, so I'll predict him to survive. I'm going Brad Tavares via decision. Next fight on the card. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Martin Buday. Kennedy Nzechukwu has just found his way beating up NPC scrub heavyweights and staying active doing it. Finishes Lucas Dresky 3 months ago. Before that, finishes Chris Barnett. Before that, lost to Oven St. Pro. Before that, lost to Dustin Jacoby. Martin Buday, I think, is maybe just slightly above the scrubs at heavyweight. But you're beating Andre Arlovski via split decision, losing to Shamil Gaziev. I mean, there's no shame in that. Beat Josh Parisian. Beat Jake Collier. Beat Lucas Dresky, split decision. I think Kennedy Nzechukwu is just exposing the heavyweights badly, so I'm going to go Kennedy Nzechukwu. Martin Buday makes me look like I have an elite level athlete's physique. Okay? Okay. Look at this. Look at this picture. He's sucking in right. He's sucking in right here. So I'm going to go Kennedy Nzechukwu to KO Martin Buday. Martin Buday actually, even don't let his feet deceive you. He actually has decent cardio. Has okay ground game. But I think Nzechukwu is going to have a speed advantage, has a striking advantage, and I'm picking him to get it done. I'm going Kennedy Nzechukwu to KO the bag of milk physique. I'm going to say second round KO for Kennedy Nzechukwu. That's my prediction. Next fight on the card, the featured fight on the card. We have Cortavius Ramirez versus Chang Ho Lee. This is a tough fight to pick. This is another tricky matchup. Chang Ho Lee fought Long Xiao in his last fight, won via split decision. I thought arguably he could have lost that fight. Before that, he's fighting on road to the UFC against okay opposition, nothing great. Then Cortavius Ramirez fought Gastelum Bolaños in his first fight in the UFC and lost. Lost via decision there. I feel like Ramirez's striking just isn't good enough. And Chang Ho Lee has decent defensive grappling. He can be out-grappled. We've seen it in the Long Xiao fight, but he was able to reverse positions, ended up in better positions on the ground, ended up in dominating positions on the ground, taking the back, and, showed decent work on the ground. And I think he's probably the better striker. He has decent clinch work. I think this fight could generally go either way. I flirted with the idea of picking Cortavius Ramirez, but I'm going to pick Chang Ho Lee. Or is it Kong Ho Lee? I don't know. Sometimes these names are weird to pronounce. I'm going to pick Lee to get it done. I think he's decent enough on the ground. I think his striking is good. I think Ramirez is another one of these guys that come off Dana White's Contender Series ill-prepared for the UFC. And I think maybe it's Kang Ho Lee. Forgive me, guys. Forgive me, guys. This is the featured fight on an Apex card. Okay? Featured fight. They should have put Vanessa Demopoulos in this position. I don't know what is going on here. But anyway, I'm going to go Kang Ho Lee to get it done. I'm going to say via decision. I think he's the better striker. I think on the ground, he can scramble back up. I think it'll be a relatively competitive fight, but I'm going to go Kang Ho Lee via decision. I'll say 29-28 decision win for Kang Ho Lee. Next fight on the card, we have Pat Sabatini versus Joanderson Brito. Very, very interesting co-main event for the UFC Apex. Joanderson Brito just brutally slumping everyone left and right. His last fight, he lost to William Gomez. Lost via split decision, close fight. William Gomez is a decent fighter, not great. Before that, retires Jack Shore. Before that, submits Jonathan Pierce where he's getting out-grappled. Before that, beats Weston Wilson, straight up scrub. Before that, beats Lucas Alexander, submits him. Pat Sabatini's coming off a win over Jonathan Pierce. Before that, he loses Diego Lopez, gets KO'd there. Before that, submits Lucas Almeida. Before that, loses to Damon Jackson. It's hard for me to pick a guy who's getting KO'd by Damon Jackson. I got to be honest, though. This seems like a trap fight. Brito does not have the best grappling or defensive wrestling, and Pat Sabatini's really solid at getting guys down and finding submissions. Look what he did to Jonathan Pierce. Jonathan Pierce was dominating Brito. You know what? Maybe it's only in big fights. I'm going to pick Sabatini to win. I was picking Joanderson Brito first round KO. Maybe the curse will continue. I'm going to pick Pat Sabatini. Brito has nasty power, and he can find a KO, and maybe he will, and maybe this will be the worst pick switch of all time live. But, man, he was getting dominated by Jonathan Pierce, and Sabatini went out there and dominated and made him look like easy work. You know, I know that was a bit ago. I mean, not really. It's 5 months ago. Where Brito's losing to William Gomez. Brito doesn't have the best takedown defense at all. Like, he got a Hail Mary sub against Jonathan Pierce. Sabatini's strong. As long as Sabatini cannot get clipped right on the tip of the chin and get put to sleep, Slump City, I think he can win this fight. I think Pat Sabatini can out-grapple him. So maybe the craziest pick of all time. Maybe I'm a straight-up maniac. But I'm going Pat Sabatini to get it done with his grappling. Could even see him finding a sub. Once he gets you down there, he has really good submissions. So maybe I should switch back. I don't know. I'm going to go Sabatini. I'm going to stick with Sabatini. I know the pick flips don't usually work, but maybe this one will work out. But maybe I should stay with Brito to KO him. But I'm going to go Pat Sabatini. I'm going to say decision. He wrestles him to a decision similar to the path that Jonathan Pierce was heading towards before he got choked. And Joanderson Brito just pulled it out of the fire and said, "Don't let him booty you, son." Anyway, Pat Sabatini gets it done via decision. Mark my words, in the co-main event. Next fight on the card, the main event. The featherweight bout we've all been waiting for. Josh Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. You could pick Josh Emmett in this fight. Josh Emmett, super well-rounded, unbelievable power, has been around forever, has fought the who's who, only really losing to the best. Lost to Ilia Topuria, went to decision with Ilia. Before that, lost to Yair in a fight that he was winning before he got hurt and then subbed, jumped down in the guard and got subbed. His last fight, he beat Bryce Mitchell, brutally KO'd him, but then sat out for a year and a half. At 40 years old, year and a half off. How can you... And Josh Emmett's kind of... I don't even want to disrespect him by calling him a Family Dollar version of Michael Chandler, because I think he's a little bit more than that, but he does have that Michael Chandler attribute where he just squats down and looks for the big right hand. I actually thought he lost to Calvin Kattar. He beat Calvin Kattar. I thought he lost to Calvin Kattar just punching the guard. He won via split decision. You look at Lerone Murphy, he fought Dan Ige in his last fight. I know Dan Ige, a lot of people don't think he's that good. I think Dan Ige is criminally underrated. Dan Ige did clip him up a little bit in that fight. Before that, beat Edson Barbosa, clean win in a main event. Before that, beat Josh Coulibaugh, who's actually a decent fighter. Against Gabriel Santos, it was a razor-close fight that he could have lost. But Gabriel Santos, I actually think, is pretty good. And Murphy has improved since then. Murphy's in his prime at 33 years old. Josh Emmett's 40 years old. And relies primarily on his power. I don't think he's going to go in there and wrestle. He just kind of throws that overhand right and then sometimes throws combinations just punching the guard of his opponent. Murphy's super well-rounded. Has really good kicks. Has really good grappling that he can mix in. He's not like the biggest finisher by any means, but undefeated. Beaten quality opponent after quality opponent after quality opponent. I know most of them are decisions. His last finish was against Makwan Amirkhani, which he brutally KO'd, which I hate Makwan Amirkhani, so I'm glad he did that. I just think Murphy has too much to offer Josh Emmett. And if he's losing, if Josh Emmett is losing on the feet, where does he go to? I don't think he's dumping Murphy down and controlling him. And even if he does get him down, Murphy will scramble back up. You're sitting out for a year at 40 years old. That's never good. You know, he should have had a talk with Michael Chandler and learn from Michael Chandler's lessons. And also, he went out there and slumped Bryce Mitchell badly. I mean, I thought Bryce Mitchell was going to wake up and think the earth was round. So, sat out for a long time, 40 years old. I know he only lost to Topuria and Yair recently. He did get KO'd a while ago by like Jeremy Stevens, which was a brutal KO. You have to go Lerone Murphy. Even if you end up being wrong on this one, I feel like you have to go Lerone Murphy. But I don't think Murphy, if Ilia Topuria is not putting Josh Emmett away, Murphy's not putting Josh Emmett away. So I'm going to pick Murphy to get it done. He's very, very well-rounded. He's good everywhere. He's entering his prime. He's fighting a guy who's 40 years old, coming off a long layoff. Meanwhile, he fought 5 months ago, put on a decent performance against Dan Ige, and Dan Ige is criminally underrated. I have to go Lerone Murphy in this one. I think he's going to be able to land on the feet, avoid the big shots of Emmett, maybe mix in an occasional clinch, maybe a takedown attempt, but I think it's going to be primarily on the feet, and I just think Murphy is going to be a little bit faster on the feet, land more shots, do more damage. Josh Emmett has a lot of scar tissue. We've seen him busted up badly in the Topuria fight. I think Murphy outstrikes him to a pretty dominant but slightly competitive decision win. I think it'll be like a 49-46 decision win for Lerone Murphy in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 105. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.